Hi, welcome to Instructional Design in Canvas. I'm Mary Engel, and I will be the facilitator for this course. I've really gotten into instructional design over the years and have just recently completed my PhD in instructional design for online learning. And so I'm going to take you through the process that I use when I'm creating or adapting a course to the online format. The vast majority of what you learn here will also apply to teaching a blended or completely face-to-face course that is supported by using Canvas as a way to organize your class resources, assignments, and grades. I'm using part of the template that we hand out for creating an online course, and there's some really important things to note about it. This front page is one of the most critical. When my division and area was working on putting together a template that we would use in the digital computers and digital media area, we actually have a course in user interface design and a course in the user experience. And we had students take a Canvas course and test it with other students to see what they wanted to see on the front page of a course. And what they wanted, especially in an online course, was the instructor's name and image. They wanted to know who was teaching the course. They wanted to know what the name of the course was. If it's in a classroom, it would be listed here with the times and hours. They want to know how to get a hold of the instructor. They want contact information, when the office hours are, and since this is summer and a pandemic, it's all by appointment and online, and how to find me. I do tend to give out my cell phone to students. You might prefer not to do that. There's other options for that. And then I typically would include course policies and the basic format right on the front page. The class is set up in modules. Modules are a good way to break down information for your students. And so there's usually going to be an orientation or start here section. And this can vary a little bit from person to person and class to class. Then we're going to have modules. And while you'll be completing a lot of this as discussion activities, it's the activities that are really important. Everything that you do will be tied to a course that you're creating or converting, and it will be done using the Canvas skills you have. So all of your time spent in this class should be directly applicable to a class that you are moving online, updating, or creating. The way the modules are set up is each module will have an overview, which will give you an introduction to sort of let you see what that module is about. It will have the learning outcomes, so you know that what we are expecting you to get out of it, and it will have a task list. And I often will include, both in the orientation and assignments, a section called Dig Deeper. This is something that's optional if you have time and the extra interest to see it. So this first one is a TED Talk based on starting with the end in mind. Backward design is an important teaching theory for instructional design, where you start with the class outcomes. Then you determine what activities would demonstrate that a student has achieved those outcomes. From there, you determine what they need to do to be able to complete those activities. So you really start with your goals and then work on how to achieve them. It's sort of like planning a trip. You start by figuring out what your destination is. That's going to tell you what to pack, what to wear, how to get there, and everything else. So when you're creating your course, you should also start with your destination in mind. When possible, I give you choices on how to answer discussions. And so for this initial post, you're going to look at Gagne's 5 types of learning: intellectual skills, verbal information, cognitive strategy, motor skills, and attitudes, because they each take a different teaching approach, which we will get into in the upcoming sections. But you have to identify what you're teaching, because teaching somebody Spanish would be different than teaching them programming, though there is some overlap. Karate would be a different approach. Each area has its own approach that works best for students. And you probably know a lot of those approaches and just haven't classified them this way. But I'm sure that you recognize that the subject matter should drive the instructional approach. So as we're introducing to this, going through this introduction, I ask you to reply to at least 2 other students. And it's important that when you reply, because we're providing feedback to help each other think of new things, really see their own materials with a fresh set of eyes, and we're trying to help move each other forward. So when you're replying, it's important that everybody get feedback. If we're all replying to 2 other people, you should reply to somebody who has gotten no feedback or who has only gotten feedback from 1 person. That way we all get at least 2 other people looking at our work and providing feedback. And if you'd like to provide feedback on more, that is completely acceptable. My discussions tend to overlap. They'll run Monday to Monday, so you may start on your first post while you're still finishing up posts from the previous week and providing feedback. Your original post should be done by noon on Friday. That gives you the weekend to reply to other people. And if you're doing most of your work on weekends, it's okay to work ahead as well. I don't lock the Canvas shell, so you can sort of be working in 2 weeks worth of work at a time as you're responding and moving on, because I know a lot of us have some dedicated time on the weekends to work on this. When I give you multiple options, I will start different threads. So if you're doing something with a cognitive strategy, you would reply under the cognitive strategy. If you're doing something with verbal information, you would reply here. This allows you to have choices and tailor the discussion, but you can still see what everybody else is doing. And if you want to, you can actually reply in other discussions rather than the ones that you originally posted. So it gives you some choices, but it keeps the responses organized by category. There is no specific book for this class. There are many resources I will recommend, and I will have online references for you. I will often give you a choice of video references or written references in the forms of articles or web pages. This is based on both adult learning theory and UDL, Universal Design for Learning, because students, when possible, should have an option of how they get information, and again, when possible, an option of demonstrating how they have achieved that information. So you'll demonstrate it through the discussion, and you can share screenshots of the work you're doing in your class. You can do a screencast like I'm doing and do a little video tour of your own class. You can just type out a description of what you're doing. You can upload documents. I encourage you to use, both in the discussion and your posts to others, whatever seems most intuitive and best for you for that activity. You'll find that while I'm good at writing, my preference when I'm providing feedback is to use video. That way you see what I see. I've learned through teaching web development and programming that the type of computer and the browser that people are using matters, because I've had times when I'm working on a PC in Chrome and somebody else is working on a Mac in Firefox where what I see is totally different than what they see. And when they get the video, they can see what I'm seeing, and we may have to do some stuff to make it match, but it helps solve a lot of communication problems. I encourage you to try screencasting, and I'll have some resources for that as well. I hope you really enjoy this class and that it helps make your instructional design in Canvas efficient, easy, and good for you and the students so that you enjoy your classes more.